Hello. Thank you for watching this brief webinar and for participating in International Charity Fraud Awareness Week. My name is Tracy Thorlifson. I'm an attorney with the Federal Trade Commission, where I've worked for the past 33 years. At the FTC, one of my areas of expertise is charitable solicitation fraud by fundraisers and sham charities. First, I must make our standard disclaimer. The views expressed today are my own and do not reflect those of the Commission, any individual commissioner, or the FTC's Bureau of Consumer Protection. Briefly, the U.S. Federal Trade Commission is a small, independent federal agency. We have around 1,100 employees, mostly in Washington, D.C. We also have regional offices, including the Northwest Regional Office in Seattle, Washington, where I work. Our mission is to stop fraud, deception, and unfair business practices. Essentially, we are the nation's consumer protection agency. We enforce laws and trade regulation rules that cover the gamut of consumer experiences, from care labels on clothing to how funeral homes disclose prices, and cover a host of topics like privacy, credit reporting, debt collection, franchise and business opportunities, and telemarketing. We do not have jurisdiction over legitimate charities, but we can and do take action against for-profit fundraisers and sham charities who deceive donors with false and misleading claims to induce contributions. Today, I'm going to talk briefly about a recent case brought by the FTC against a fraudulent fundraiser. Associated Community Services and its sister companies solicited for a host of purportedly charitable organizations that claimed to benefit veterans, cancer patients, firefighters, and a handful of other worthy-sounding causes. ACS primarily raised funds through telemarketing, typically illegal robocalls. ACS's false or misleading claims included promises that donations to children's cancer charities would provide financial assistance to families with children suffering from cancer, that donations to women's cancer charities would be used to pay past due rent or utility bills for low-income women fighting cancer, or used to provide free cancer screenings. They claimed that donations to firefighters' charities would provide financial assistance to fire victims, or that donations to veterans' charities would help house homeless veterans. In fact, less than 5% of donations were spent on the programs described to donors. ACS raised more than $110 million from 2016 through 2018, and they kept 80 to 90% of every dollar they collected. Now, keeping that much money from donations is not illegal in the United States. The problem here is that ACS lied to people about what the charity did with donations. The FTC joined together with 46 state agencies from 38 states and the District of Columbia to sue ACS, its sister companies, the individuals who owned them, some of the ACS senior managers responsible for the telemarketing, and a couple of spin-off companies run by the senior managers. Our investigation found that ACS's telemarketers made some really egregious claims. One of the worst was the claim made on behalf of some of the cancer charities that donations would be used to provide suffering cancer patients with pain medication. This was simply not true, but it sounded good and it was effective. Who wouldn't want to donate to help get suffering cancer patients pain medication? The ACS telemarketers used sales tactics like false claims of urgency and importance to convince donors to contribute. Unfortunately, almost none of the money donated was used to help people, and the only urgency about collecting donations was for ACS to make payroll. Just as an example, that statement, $20 is a small price to pay to help save a woman's life, that was made on behalf of Women's Cancer Fund. In 2017, that charity reported total contributions of $13.9 million, and they spent just 0.1% of that amount, $17,485, helping 70 women with cancer by paying past due rent and utilities. That same year, it paid two of its directors $352,000. So what can you do if you get a telemarketing call or direct mail letter or see a post on social media that asks for a donation urgently with heart-tugging claims? Maybe the charity has a name that sounds familiar, or it's for a popular cause. No charity needs your money so urgently that you cannot take a moment to research before giving. And this is important. If you're like me, or most people, you only have so much money to give. And if some of that money ends up in the hands of a fraudulent fundraiser or a sham charity, you don't have extra money to give to a legitimate charity. You lost your money. Real charities lost the opportunity to use your money for good. And the people or causes that you wanted to help, well, they lost too. So research before you give. One of the easiest things to do is to search the internet for the charity's name, plus the word fraud or complaint, review, rating, or scam. Here are some other places where you can go to research vetted charities for causes you wanted to support or to research the charity you're interested in. Our lawsuit against ACS also alleged that ACS engaged in illegal telemarketing practices. One of the shocking things was just how many calls ACS made. 1.3 billion calls to 67 million phone numbers. A lot of people got called repeatedly, multiple times in an hour, a day, a week, and so on. A small group of people got called 500 or more times a year. How is ACS able to call so many people? Mostly, they use something called soundboard technology. With soundboard technology, individual telemarketers do not talk to donors. Instead, they play pre-recorded audio clips in response to donors' questions. At ACS, many telemarketers handled 3 calls at a time. They wore 3 headsets, one at each ear and one at their temple, and had 3 screens and 3 keyboards. One of my favorite stories about this is that at ACS, they said that that third keyboard was operated with the telemarketer's middle hand. Under our telemarketing sales rule, charitable fundraising calls made with soundboard technology are prohibited to new donors and permitted to prior donors only if there's no opt-out, or if there is an opt-out mechanism at the beginning of the call, allowing people to choose not to be called again. None of ACS's calls included such an opt-out, and all of their calls violated the law. A quick note about the Do Not Call Registry. It doesn't apply to charitable solicitations. If you get a call from a charitable fundraiser, use the magic words, "Please place me on your do not call list." I can't promise you they will stop calling, but every call after you ask to be placed on their do not call list is a law violation, and I encourage you to report such violations. If you get a robocall, whether it's a classic recording or a call where they're using soundboard technology, please report it. You'll need the telephone number that appears in your caller ID screen. Why should you bother reporting a robocall? Because every number that's reported as a robocall is shared with the industry and will likely be blocked. The robocaller will have to spend the time and money to get a new number. Whether you're reporting a robocall, a suspicious charitable solicitation, or other charity fraud, you can do so at reportfraud.ftc.gov, or you can just go to our website, www.ftc.gov, and click on the Report Fraud link. You can also report the fraud to the Better Business Bureau, AARP, your state attorney general, and other internet complaint sites. So what happened to ACS? They settled our lawsuit. We stopped their illegal practices and obtained a monetary judgment of $110 million. Most of that was suspended because the money was gone. The people who owned ACS and its sister companies are banned from fundraising and from telemarketing. The senior managers that we named are also banned from fundraising and from robocalling. And the companies ended up closed. This group can no longer engage in fraudulent fundraising or harass Americans with unwanted robocalls. If you want more information on the FTC, you can check us out at some of these spots. Thank you for your time today.